The report onto the conduct and behaviour of Lord Rennard over sexual harassment claims evidence against him was broadly credible, although there was less than a 50% chance that harassment charges could be proved. Why then should he not be expelled from the party, all privileges removed? Further, should he not apologise to the women who reported these claims, and what action are you going to take, asks Graham.
He should apologise, and it's not me just saying that. The QC, the independent QC, an eminent judge, looked into this. It was done entirely independently, and he, as you quite rightly just reminded us, he said that there wasn't, in his view, enough evidence to clear the threshold of what is in effect the criminal burden of proof in order for him to recommend action. But he felt there was, in his view, clear evidence that the women were speaking with credibility, that they should be believed, that they were subject to behaviour which was distressing, that Chris Rennard should reflect on his behaviour and he should apologise. And I think it is a matter of very real regret, to put it mildly, that so far at least he hasn't chosen to apologise. I have apologised on behalf of the party for the fact that I don't think, and it's quite clear that we didn't respond to their appeals, if you like, early enough, that the procedures handling all of this were insufficient. We've taken a very unforgiving look, frankly, and it's been an unflattering picture that's emerged of a party that didn't have the right procedures, didn't provide sufficient protection to these women. We've changed them dramatically, and I happen to think that the point that is it Graham? Did you say? That Graham's made about the sort of threshold of proof that needs to be cleared in these inquiries does need to be looked at again, and that's why I've asked Tim Farron, who's the president of the party, to do just that.
And it's a party with a leader who should have asked more questions, apparently.
I think we should I think we should all ask. Yes,
you failed on your watch here.
I think we should all have asked more questions. I've said that.
You failed on your watch here, Mr. Clegg. Did you as leader?
Well, as I said, I think we should all have asked more questions. Questions were asked, but they were not pursued. Things were not taken up as formally as they should have been. And if you really want the full gory details of that, look at the report that I commissioned, again independently, from Helena Morrissey, who, as I say, was totally uncompromising in her view that whatever people's intentions were, the procedures were simply not there in order to respond to and properly look into the claims when they first surfaced. So we deserve, and you're absolutely right. The buck stops with me, and I've said very clearly.
So it was a failure on your part.
Well, I've said very clearly there are a number of failures.
You don't like the F word, do you?
Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to use my own words, and I think the party as a whole, and myself as leader, we've got to take responsibility for that, failed to respond to the concerns first raised. We then looked very, very closely at the way in which we handle these things, which wasn't properly organised. The rules, the procedures, and all the rest of it were basically lacking, and in some cases just absent. We've now filled all of that or addressing all of that by implementing the recommendations of the Morrissey report. I think the report from the QC, published yesterday, has revealed, if you like, that there is further work to do, because the burden of proof that needs to be met when a report is launched surrounding cases like this is a very high burden of proof. And I think it just doesn't, for me, it's sort of, in this case, what the QC has said is he should apologise. The witnesses were credible. He needs to reflect on his behaviour, but the proof is not sufficient to take action. And I think we do need to reconsider that as a party, and that's what we will now do.
Fourth and final time, not a failure then?
I think it's a failure of everybody concerned, clearly, and
including the leader.
Well, you don't. Of course, you don't apologise unless you think that you take personal responsibility. Of course, I do as leader. I've never ever shirked my own responsibility as leader of a party that I think where we have failed to respond to the claims made by the women when they were first made many years ago.
How much would you like Lord Rennard to leave the party?
I want him above all this morning to do the decent thing as asked for by the QC, who's looked at this very meticulously, very fairly, very reasonably. Who said, "Look, you just owe an apology."
And if he doesn't, Nick Clegg?
Well, at the end of the day, I can't. I'm the leader of a political party. There's some things I can do directly. There are some things that I can't.
Why can't you boot him out?
Oh, because I can't. Because you have something called due process, which you have in every organisation. I suspect you have it in this organisation.
Yeah, sure.
Every organisation, every party.
If I had a colleague who was asked to apologise and he or she didn't, I would probably move to a position that I didn't want to work with them.
Well,
this man thinks he's going to write your manifesto.
No, but he's not. He's not going to play a role in my general election campaign next year. And I made that very clear. So, what I can do as leader in this case is say that, echo and repeat what the QC has said himself, that he should apologise. But at the end of the day, given that the standard of proof which we presently have in our rules mean that no action can be taken, and you have to respect the outcome of that report, you have to respect the rules as they are at the moment, even though we're going to review them, I nonetheless think it is really important that he does the decent thing and apologises to these women, because as I said before, they have been let down, they have been failed, and they are owed an apology.
So if he's not going to write the manifesto, then what is he going to do?
Well, he's a member of the Liberal Democrats. He's a member of the House of Lords. But he, as
he's
I say,
probably listening. Why don't you talk to him now? Tell him to apologise.
I have done. I've said repeatedly, and not only have I apologised as leader of the party to the women, both personally and publicly. I just think, when it is so obvious that these women were subject to behaviour which caused them distress, and you look, I have a rather old-fashioned view that everybody should seek to sort of treat each other with respect, but people in positions of authority have a special responsibility to treat people in an appropriate way, and not treat people in an offensive or inappropriate manner.
And just lastly on this, the two women at the heart of the story, you're probably aware, one told Channel 4 News yesterday, my advice to Nick Clegg would be kick the guy out, referring to Lord Rennard, and the other victim saying, faced with the opportunity to take strong action, the Liberal Democrats have once more opted for cowardice.
Well, I can only explain that in my party, as in any party, however strongly you feel about things, everybody has to be treated in the same way when these disciplinary procedures happen. You can't just have kangaroo courts, can you? And our rules currently mean that you have to have a criminal burden of proof before disciplinary action can be taken. Now, you can have an argument, which is a perfectly legitimate one, about actually whether that burden, that threshold, should be set lower, and that's precisely what we're going to look at.
Must be frustrating for you, isn't it?
Well, of course it is frustrating for me, where I think that the women have been wronged, where they've been let down by the party, where they are owed an apology, and they're not being given the apology which I think they rightly deserve. I cannot be clearer than that. At the end of the day, if someone is not prepared to do the decent thing and apologise to people, I can't frog march them to do so, but I would nonetheless appeal to their basic decency to do it.